Mr. Ashford? The voice on the other end trembles. Female, older, uncertain. I'm so sorry to bother you this late. This is Pauline Chen. I live in 4B, across the hall from... I know who you are, Mrs. Chen. His voice carries the particular weight of old money and older power, smooth as aged whiskey and twice as dangerous. What's happened? There's a muffled sound like she's turning away from the receiver. Then, your daughter is at my door. She's alone, and she's crying. I didn't know what else to do. I know you travel for business, and I wasn't sure if... Rowan is already moving. The phone stays pressed to his ear as he crosses the office in 3 long strides, his $1,000 shoes silent on marble floors. Is she hurt? I don't think so, not physically. But Mr. Ashford, she's only wearing pajamas, and it's freezing outside. She won't tell me what's wrong. She just keeps asking for you. His jaw tightens. I'll be there in 10 minutes. Keep her warm. Don't let her leave. Of course. I made her hot chocolate. She's... Oh, sweetheart, it's okay. The last thing he hears before hanging up is the sound that cracks something in his chest. His daughter Ivy's voice, small and broken, saying, I want my dad. Rowan moves through the night like smoke, like shadow, like the thing he truly is beneath the expensive suits and carefully cultivated humanity. The drive from his downtown office to the brownstone in Brooklyn should take 30 minutes. He makes it in 8, and he doesn't bother caring about the speed cameras that flash as he passes. Ivy is 9 years old. She has his dark hair and her mother's stubborn chin. And she's supposed to be safe at her mother's apartment in Queens tonight. The custody arrangement is ironclad. Rowan gets weekends and Wednesdays. This is Tuesday. This is wrong. Mrs. Chen opens her apartment door before he can knock. She's in a floral bathrobe, her gray hair in curlers, and the relief on her face when she sees him is palpable. Thank God, she's in the living room. I gave her a blanket but Rowan is already past her. Ivy sits on a faded blue couch that smells like lavender and old paper, wrapped in what looks like someone's grandmother's quilt. Her dark hair hangs in tangles around her face, and her feet are bare, except for pink socks with holes in the toes. The hot chocolate sits untouched on the coffee table, cooling in a mug shaped like a cat. When she sees him, her face crumples. Dad, she whispers. And then she's launching herself across the room, all sharp elbows and desperate grip, and Rowan catches her the way he's caught her since she was small enough to fit in one arm. She buries her face in his neck and starts to sob. Not the performative crying of a child who wants something, but the bone-deep weeping of genuine anguish. I've got you, he murmurs, and his voice is different now, stripped of its boardroom edge. You're safe. I've got you, little owl. Mrs. Chen hovers in the doorway, wringing her hands. Rowan meets her eyes over Ivy's shaking head and mouths a silent thank you. The older woman nods and quietly retreats to what he assumes is her bedroom, giving them privacy. He sits on the couch with Ivy still clinging to him like he's the only solid thing in a tilting world. For several long minutes, he just holds her. One hand making slow circles on her back the way he did when she was a baby who couldn't sleep. Through the window, the city hums with its usual midnight restlessness, sirens in the distance, the rumble of the subway beneath the street. Someone's television playing too loud through thin walls. Finally, when the sobs have quieted to hiccups, he speaks. Tell me what happened. Ivy pulls back just enough to look at him. Her eyes, gray like storm clouds, so unlike his own, are swollen and red. Mom forgot to pick me up from art club. Something cold unfurls in Rowan's chest. Forgot. Mrs. Patterson waited with me until 6. Then she had to leave, and the janitor said I couldn't stay, so I walked to the subway. She's talking faster now, the words tumbling out like she's been holding them in for hours. I took the train to Mom's apartment, but nobody was home. I waited in the hallway for a really long time, Dad. Like, a really long time. And then her boyfriend showed up. Rowan's fingers tighten fractionally on his daughter's shoulder. His voice remains carefully neutral. Garrett was there. He said Mom went out with her friends and she'd be back later. He said I could wait inside, but... Ivy's breath hitches. He was drinking that stuff that smells bad. And he was acting weird. He kept laughing at nothing and saying, I looked just like Mom when she was young. It made my tummy feel wrong. The cold thing in Rowan's chest crystallizes into something sharp and purposeful. So you left. I told him I needed to get my backpack from the car, and then I ran. I had enough money for the train to come here, but then I couldn't remember which button to push for your apartment, and Mrs. Chen heard me in the hallway. She looks down at her hands, twisting them together. Are you mad? At you? Rowan tilts her chin up gently, making sure she sees his face, sees the absolute certainty there. Ivy Ashford, you did exactly the right thing. You trusted your instincts. You got yourself somewhere safe. I am not mad. I'm proud of you. But I interrupted your work, and I wasn't supposed to come here until Saturday. Listen to me. He waits until she meets his eyes. There is nothing in this world more important to me than you. Not work, not money, not any plan or schedule or rule. If you need me, you call me. If you can't call, you come to me. If you can't come to me, you go somewhere safe and you have someone call me. Do you understand? Ivy nods, and fresh tears spill down her cheeks. Relief this time, not fear. Good. He stands, lifting her with him, despite the fact that she's getting too big for this, growing faster than he's ready for. Now, let's get you home. Mrs. Chen emerges as they're heading toward the door, holding out a plastic bag. Her shoes, she explains. She took them off when she sat down, and I packed the rest of the hot chocolate in a thermos. The walk back to your place is cold. Rowan shifts Ivy to one arm. She immediately wraps around him like a koala, and accepts the bag with his free hand. Up close, Mrs. Chen smells like cold cream and peppermint tea, and there's a pin on her bathrobe collar that says World's Best Grandma in cheerful yellow letters. You have my deepest gratitude, he says, and he means it with an intensity that most people wouldn't understand. If there's ever anything you need. Oh, don't be silly. She waves a hand, but she's smiling. I've got 3 grandbabies of my own. I know what it's like. You just take care of that sweet girl. Always, Rowan says, and it's a promise and a threat all at once. His apartment is at the end of the hall, behind a door of reinforced steel that cost more than most people's cars. The interior is all dark wood and leather, floor-to-ceiling windows that overlook the bridge, art on the walls that auction houses would kill for. It's sophisticated and tasteful, and utterly impersonal, except for one corner of the living room where Ivy's things live. A purple beanbag chair, a bookshelf stuffed with middle-grade novels, a bin of art supplies that's always overflowing. He sets her down in the bathroom and runs a bath while she sits on the closed toilet lid, still wrapped in Mrs. Chen's quilt. Steam fills the space, fogging the mirror, and he adds the lavender bath salts that Ivy likes because they turn the water purple. Arms up, he says, and she raises them obediently so he can pull off her sweatshirt, a ratty thing with a cartoon unicorn that's seen better days. There are grass stains on the knees of her leggings and a small tear in the sleeve of her shirt, evidence of a 9-year-old's life lived in motion and without much supervision. The thought makes his jaw tighten again. Ivy sinks into the bath with a sigh that sounds too old for her years. Rowan sits on the floor beside the tub, his back against the wall, his sleeves rolled up. He's still in his suit from the office, still wearing the mask of the man the world thinks he is. Rowan Ashford, venture capitalist, philanthropist. One of the city's most eligible bachelors according to that insufferable magazine that keeps trying to interview him. None of them know the truth. None of them can. Dad? Ivy's voice is small. Do you think Mom's mad at me for leaving? He considers his words carefully. He's had 9 years to learn this particular tightrope walk, how to be honest with his daughter without poisoning her relationship with her mother. I think your mom made a mistake. Adults make mistakes just like kids do, but that's not your fault, and you don't need to fix it for her. Garrett said Mom needs her space, that she works really hard and deserves to have fun. Your mother's need for space does not supersede her responsibility to you. He pauses, then adds more gently, You deserve a parent who shows up, Ivy. Always. She's quiet for a moment, running a washcloth over her arms, watching the soap bubbles drift across the surface of the water. Then, is it true what Tyler Jameson said at school? I don't know what Tyler Jameson said at school. He said you're really rich, like private jet rich. He said his dad Googled you and you're worth millions. Billions, Rowan corrects mildly, and Tyler Jameson should learn to mind his own business. Ivy giggles, the first light sound she's made all night. Billions is more than millions, right? Considerably. So why doesn't Mom have any money? She's always talking about bills and saying we can't afford stuff. Rowan inhales slowly through his nose. This, too, is a minefield. I send your mother money every month for your care. What she does with that money is her choice. But if there's something you need, it's fine, Ivy says quickly. Too quickly. I don't need anything. I was just wondering. She's lying, and they both know it, but Rowan lets it go. For now, when the bath is done and Ivy is clean and warm in flannel pajamas that actually fit her, he tucks her into the guest room that's slowly becoming more her room than a guest anything. There's a mural on the wall that he commissioned, a forest scene with hidden owls that Ivy delights in finding. Her current stuffed animal collection has taken over the window seat. Stay until I fall asleep? She asks, and he nods, settling into the chair beside her bed. She's asleep in minutes, her breathing evening out into the deep rhythm of childhood exhaustion. Rowan stays for another hour, watching her in the dim glow of the nightlight, cataloging all the small ways she's changed since he saw her last Sunday. She's growing up. She's going to keep growing up, getting older and more complicated, and he's missing so much of it. Finally, he rises and moves to his study, closing the door behind him. The phone call he makes goes to voicemail, predictably. Brooke, it's Rowan. Call me back immediately. We need to discuss what happened tonight. He pauses, then adds with cold precision, and keep Garrett away from my daughter. The next call is to his lawyer. Maxwell Rhee answers on the second ring, which is why Rowan pays him an obscene retainer. It's midnight, Maxwell says by way of greeting. I need you to file for emergency custody modification first thing tomorrow morning. There's a brief silence. Then, what happened? Rowan tells him, keeping his voice level and factual even as fury simmers beneath his skin. When he's done, Maxwell whistles low. That's neglect. Possibly endangerment, depending on how the judge interprets it. But Rowan, you know how family court is. Mothers have... I don't care about precedent or statistics. I care about my daughter's safety. Make it happen. I'll file the emergency motion at 9 a.m., but you need to prepare for this to get ugly. Brooke isn't going to take this lying down. Let her fight, Rowan says softly. She'll lose. He hangs up and stands at the window, looking out at the city that's his to command in ways most people can't imagine. Out there in the darkness, his kind moves like shadows between the humans who pretend monsters aren't real. He spent 300 years building power, accumulating wealth, creating an empire that spans continents. And yet, he couldn't protect his daughter from being forgotten in a school parking lot. The rage that fills him is ancient and cold, and it takes effort to push it down, to remember that he chose this life, chose humanity, chose to love a human woman, chose to create a child who's half of each world and fully vulnerable to both. His phone buzzes. A text from Brooke, finally. Just saw your message. Ivy's fine. Stop being dramatic. She knew where to find you. That's what co-parenting is. Rowan stares at the message for a long moment. Then he deletes it without responding. Tomorrow, the real work begins. The courtroom is exactly what Rowan expected. Institutional beige, fluorescent lighting, a pervasive smell of desperation and bad coffee. He sits at a long table beside Maxwell, who's arranged folders and documents with military precision. Across the aisle, Brooke is flanked by her own attorney, a woman in a too-tight blazer who keeps nervously clicking her pen. Brooke looks different than she did when they were together. Her blonde hair is shorter now, styled in what's probably an expensive cut. She's thinner, too, in a way that speaks of skipped meals rather than intentional diet. But the thing that strikes Rowan most is her eyes. They slide away from his the moment he looks at her, tracking instead to the judge's bench, the court reporter, anywhere but him. Guilt, maybe, or fear. Judge Patricia Moreno enters with the kind of efficient authority that speaks to decades on the bench. She's in her 60s, black, with silver hair pulled back in a neat bun, and reading glasses on a chain around her neck. Rowan has done his research. She's known for being fair but tough, unsentimental about parental excuses, but deeply committed to children's welfare. This is an emergency hearing regarding the custody of Ivy Ashford, age 9, Judge Moreno begins, glancing at her papers. Mr. Ashford has filed for immediate modification of the existing custody arrangement based on allegations of neglect. Mrs. Ashford disputes these claims. I've reviewed the initial filing. Mr. Rhee, present your case. Maxwell rises, and for the next 20 minutes, he lays out the facts with surgical precision. The timeline of Tuesday night, the statement from Mrs. Chen, Ivy's account of events, a history of missed pickups and last-minute schedule changes, the concerning presence of Brooke's boyfriend while intoxicated. Your Honor, Maxwell concludes, this isn't about one bad night. This is a pattern of deprioritizing the minor child's needs and safety. Mr. Ashford seeks primary physical custody, with Mrs. Ashford retaining visitation rights contingent on meeting certain conditions. Judge Moreno turns to Brooke's attorney. Ms. Kim? The lawyer stands, smoothing her blazer. Your Honor, Mrs. Ashford acknowledges that Tuesday evening was not her finest moment. She takes full responsibility for the scheduling mix-up. However, this was an isolated incident caused by a demanding work schedule and a communication error. Mrs. Ashford loves her daughter deeply and has been her primary caregiver since birth. To strip her of custody based on one mistake would be excessive and harmful to the child. One mistake? Maxwell interjects. We have documentation of... Judge Moreno holds up a hand. You'll get your rebuttal, Mr. Rhee. Ms. Kim, continue. Mrs. Ashford has been a devoted single mother for 9 years, while Mr. Ashford has been largely absent, choosing to prioritize his business ventures over day-to-day parenting. He sees Ivy on a limited schedule and has never once requested additional custody time until now. This sudden interest in primary custody appears to be motivated by control rather than genuine concern for the child's welfare. Rowan feels his hands tighten on the armrests. Beside him, Maxwell makes a note on his legal pad. The judge looks at Brooke directly. Mrs. Ashford, can you explain in your own words what happened Tuesday night? Brooke stands and Rowan watches her swallow hard. When she speaks, her voice is quieter than he remembers. I made a mistake. I had a meeting that ran late, and I lost track of time. Ivy was never in danger. She knew how to reach her father, and that's exactly what she did. I'm grateful she has that option. But, Your Honor, Ivy is happy. She's thriving. Her grades are good, she has friends, she's in art club and soccer. Taking her away from me would devastate her. Mrs. Ashford, Judge Moreno says, not unkindly. A 9-year-old child was left alone at a school after dark, then navigated public transportation alone to an apartment where no parent was present, then encountered an intoxicated adult, then traveled alone again at night to reach safety. Where in that sequence was she never in danger? Brooke's face crumples slightly. I know it sounds bad when you say it like that. But Garrett wouldn't have hurt her. He's not... Were you there? The judge interrupts. No. But... Then you don't know what might have happened. That's the point. Judge Moreno shuffles her papers. I'm going to hear from the child in chambers. Bailiff, please have them bring Ivy in. Rowan's head snaps up. Your Honor, my daughter has already been through... I'm aware, Mr. Ashford, but in custody disputes, the child's voice matters. I won't subject her to open court, but I will speak to her privately. She looks at both attorneys. You'll both wait here. 10 minutes crawl by like hours. Rowan sits motionless, every instinct screaming at him to go to his daughter, to shield her from this, but he knows better than to challenge a judge's ruling. Across the aisle, Brooke is crying quietly into a tissue, while her lawyer whispers to her. When Ivy emerges from chambers with the bailiff, her face is composed but pale. She doesn't look at either of her parents as she's escorted back out of the courtroom. Judge Moreno returns and settles behind her bench. She takes off her reading glasses and looks at both parties for a long moment. The silence stretches. I've practiced family law for 35 years, she finally says, and cases like this never get easier. A child is not a possession to be won or lost. A child is a person who deserves stability, safety, and parents who put her needs first. She looks at Brooke. Mrs. Ashford, I believe you love your daughter. I also believe you're overwhelmed and making poor choices as a result. The fact that Ivy ended up in a neighbor's care at midnight because you forgot about her is unacceptable. The fact that your boyfriend was intoxicated in her presence is unacceptable. These are not small mistakes. These are serious lapses in judgment that put your daughter at risk. Then she turns to Rowan. Mr. Ashford, you have the resources to provide excellent material care. But material care isn't everything. Ivy told me that you read to her every night she's with you, that you help with her homework and remember her friends' names, that you've never once broken a promise to her. Those details matter more than your net worth. Rowan feels something in his chest loosen slightly. However, Judge Moreno continues, Ivy also told me she loves her mother and doesn't want to lose time with her. Despite everything that happened Tuesday, she defended her mother to me. That speaks to the bond between them, a bond we should preserve when possible. She picks up her gavel. Here's my ruling. Effective immediately, custody is modified to a 70-30 split. Mr. Ashford will have primary physical custody. Ivy will reside with him during the school week and alternate weekends. Mrs. Ashford will have visitation every other weekend and one evening per week, conditional on the following. She must complete a parenting class, submit to random drug and alcohol testing for 6 months, and her boyfriend Garrett must not be present during visitation periods until she can demonstrate a stable home environment. The gavel comes down with a crack that seems to echo. Mrs. Ashford, you're getting a chance to prove you can do better. Don't waste it. We'll review this arrangement in 6 months. Court is adjourned. Rowan exhales slowly. It's not everything he wanted, but it's enough. It's safety. Brooke is sobbing now, her shoulders shaking. Her lawyer is trying to comfort her, but Rowan can see the devastation on her face, the reality of what she's just lost crashing down. He should feel triumphant. Instead, he mostly feels tired. Outside the courthouse, reporters are waiting. Somehow they always know when there's a story, circling like vultures. Maxwell sees them and swears under his breath. There must be a leak in the clerk's office. Don't say anything. But Rowan stops walking. He looks at the crowd of journalists with their cameras and microphones and hungry eyes, and something shifts in his expression. Mr. Ashford, one of them shouts. Is it true you're taking custody away from Ivy's mother? Can you comment on the allegations? Maxwell grabs his arm. Rowan, don't... But Rowan is already stepping forward. The cameras focus on him, and he knows exactly what they see. A man in a $15,000 suit, power radiating from him like heat. The kind of wealth and authority that makes people instinctively stand straighter. Good. Let them see it. Let them remember it. My daughter, he says clearly, his voice carrying across the courthouse steps, is the most important thing in my life. Every decision I make is about protecting her and giving her the stable, safe home she deserves. Today, the court agreed that she belongs with me, and I'm grateful for that. As for the rest, my family's privacy is not for sale, and this will be the only statement I make on the matter. Thank you. He turns and walks away, Maxwell jogging to keep up. Behind them, the reporters erupt with more questions, but Rowan doesn't look back. Ivy is waiting in Maxwell's office, drawing pictures at the conference table with Chloe from the administrative staff. She looks up when Rowan enters, her eyes wide and anxious. Hey, little owl, he says softly. What happened? He kneels down beside her chair. You're going to live with me now. During the school week, you'll be at my place. You'll still see your mom on some weekends and for dinner once a week. Does that sound okay? Ivy is quiet for a moment, then in a very small voice. Is Mom sad? Yes, Rowan says honestly. But sometimes adults need to make hard changes to become better parents. This is one of those times. It's not your job to fix this, or to make her feel better. Your job is to be 9 years old and let the grown-ups handle the grown-up stuff. She nods slowly, then throws her arms around his neck. I'm glad I get to live with you. So am I, he whispers into her hair. The transition happens over the next week. Rowan hires a car service to pick Ivy up from school, driven by a grandmother type named Marisol, who's been vetted 6 ways from Sunday, and who treats Ivy like her own grandchild. He registers Ivy at a private school closer to his apartment, one with smaller class sizes and actual security protocols. He transforms the guest room fully into her space, letting her pick out new bedding and paint colors, and a bookshelf that looks like a tree. He also enrolls her in therapy. Dr. Sarah Okafor is a child psychologist who specializes in family transitions, and she's the kind of person who makes people feel safe just by existing. Rowan meets with her first privately to explain the situation. Ivy needs someone who isn't me or her mother, he says. Someone who's just for her. Can you do that? Dr. Okafor regards him thoughtfully. She's in her 40s, with warm brown skin and locks pulled back in a colorful wrap. I can, but Mr. Ashford, you need to understand that therapy means Ivy will talk about things that might be hard for you to hear. About you, about her mother, about her feelings on all of this. Are you prepared for that? I'm prepared for whatever she needs to say. He pauses. I want her to have a space where she doesn't have to protect anyone's feelings, not even mine. Good, Dr. Okafor says, and smiles. Then we'll start next week. The first visitation with Brooke happens on a Saturday. Rowan drops Ivy off at a park halfway between their homes, and the awkwardness is thick enough to taste. Brooke looks like she hasn't been sleeping well. There are circles under her eyes and a brittleness to her smile. Hey, baby, she says to Ivy, and her voice cracks slightly. I missed you so much. Missed you too, Mom, Ivy says, and she means it. Rowan can hear that she means it, which is both heartbreaking and reassuring. He hands over Ivy's backpack, which contains everything Brooke might need for the day, plus Ivy's inhaler, just in case, and her favorite stuffed owl. I'll pick her up at 6, he says neutrally. Rowan. Brooke looks at him finally, really looks at him. Can we talk? Just for a minute? Ivy has already run off to the swings. Rowan stays where he is, maintaining careful distance. What do you need? I want to say I'm sorry. The words come out in a rush, for all of it. For being angry when you wanted more custody years ago, for not appreciating how much you do for her, for Tuesday night, for all of it. You were right. I got lost in trying to have my own life, and I forgot that I already have the most important thing. Rowan studies her. He spent 6 years with this woman once. Loved her, in the way that his kind can love humans. Fiercely, but incompletely. Always holding back the truth of what he is. She gave him the greatest gift of his long life, even if their relationship couldn't survive the weight of his secrets. I appreciate you saying that, he finally says. But Brooke, you don't owe me an apology. You owe Ivy consistent present parenting. Show up for her. Be sober for her. Choose her every time. Do that, and we'll be fine. Her eyes fill with tears, but she nods. I will. I promise. I will. Rowan walks away before he can say something about how promises mean nothing without action, about how many times he's heard those words before. She'll either do better or she won't. All he can control is his part, making sure Ivy has one parent who never falters. The weeks settle into a rhythm. Ivy adjusts to her new school with the resilience of children, making friends and joining the art club. She likes Marisol, who teaches her card games during the drive home and always has snacks in the car. She tolerates Dr. Okafor's questions and eventually, slowly, starts to open up to her. At night, Rowan reads to her. Currently, they're working through a fantasy series about a girl who discovers she's secretly a dragon princess. Ivy lies in her bed with her owl clutched to her chest, and Rowan sits in his chair. And for an hour each night, they exist in this perfect bubble where nothing can touch them. It's during one of these nights that Ivy says, out of nowhere, Dad, why don't you ever eat dinner with me? Rowan closes the book carefully, marking their place. It's a question he's been dreading. What do you mean? You make me dinner, and you sit with me while I eat. but you never eat. You say you're not hungry, or you already ate, but I never actually see you eat anything except sometimes those protein shakes. She's watching him with the too keen observation of a smart child who's noticed more than he thought. Are you sick? No, little owl, I'm not sick. Then why? He could lie. He's lied to humans for 3 centuries, and it's become as natural as breathing, which he doesn't technically need to do, but does anyway, for appearances. But this is Ivy, his daughter. The one person in the world he's sworn never to deceive if he can help it. I have a medical condition, he says carefully. It means I have to eat differently than most people. Special food, on a specific schedule. It's boring, and I'd rather focus on you during dinner. But I promise, I'm getting everything I need. It's not exactly a lie, just an extreme simplification. Ivy frowns. What kind of medical condition? The kind that's genetic and very rare, and nothing for you to worry about. He taps her nose gently. I've had it my whole life, and I'm fine. More than fine. Do I have it? His heart clenches. No, you're completely healthy. Half-human children don't inherit vampirism. It's one of nature's small mercies, or perhaps its way of maintaining balance. Ivy will age normally, live a human lifespan, never crave blood or fear the sun. She'll also never have his strength, his speed, his ability to heal from almost any injury. She's vulnerable in ways that keep him up during the day, during those hours when he must sleep and cannot protect her. Okay, Ivy says finally, accepting this the way children do when they trust the adult speaking to them. Can we read another chapter? We can read 2 chapters, Rowan says, opening the book again, because tomorrow's Saturday and you can sleep in. She grins, and he starts reading, and the dangerous question passes. For now. The confrontation with Garrett happens 3 weeks later, entirely by accident. Rowan is picking Ivy up from a birthday party in Queens. One of her classmates from her old school invited her, and Rowan approved it because maintaining those friendships is important. He's waiting in the lobby of the apartment building, checking his phone, when the elevator opens and a man stumbles out. The smell hits Rowan first. Cheap beer, cigarette smoke, and underneath it all, the particular scent of Garrett that he remembers from Ivy's description that night. Tall, thinning hair, a graphic t-shirt stretched over a soft middle, cargo shorts even though it's October. Garrett sees him and stops. His bloodshot eyes widen slightly. Oh, you're the... Yes, Rowan says flatly. I'm the... To his credit, Garrett looks uncomfortable. He shifts his weight, glancing toward the door like he's considering bolting. Look, man, I don't want any trouble. What happened with the kid? That was messed up. I told Brooke. You were intoxicated around my 9-year-old daughter. Rowan's voice is very soft, very calm. This is how he sounds at his most dangerous. You made her uncomfortable enough that she fled into the night rather than stay in your presence. Do you understand how serious that is? I didn't do anything. I was just a little drunk and I made some dumb joke about her growing up pretty like her mom. That's it. I wasn't gonna... Garrett stops, seeming to realize how that sounds. It was innocent. She misunderstood. Rowan takes a step forward. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't need to. Listen very carefully. You will never be alone with my daughter again. If I find out you've spoken to her, looked at her, or been within 100 feet of her, I will make your life very complicated. I have resources you can't imagine, and patience for men like you that runs extremely thin. Do we understand each other? Garrett's face has gone pale. Up close, he can see something in Rowan's eyes, something that his hindbrain recognizes as predator, even if his conscious mind can't name it. Yeah, we understand. Jesus, man, you don't have to threaten me. That wasn't a threat. Rowan smiles, showing teeth. Threats are conditional. This is information. Stay away from my daughter. Garrett practically runs for the door. When Ivy comes down 10 minutes later, chattering about the party and the cake and the goodie bag, she doesn't ask why her father looks so satisfied. She just takes his hand, and they walk to the car together, and Rowan thinks that maybe, just maybe, he's starting to get this whole single father thing right. The public validation comes in an unexpected way, 2 months into the new arrangement. Ivy's school is having a career day where parents can come talk about their jobs. Rowan has avoided these kinds of things in the past. Too many questions, too much risk of revealing something about his nature or his wealth that draws unwanted attention. But when Ivy asks him, her eyes hopeful, he can't say no. "What do I even say?" she asks the night before, practicing her introduction. "My dad is a venture capitalist?" "You could say I help companies grow," Rowan suggests. "I invest in businesses and help them succeed." "That sounds boring." He laughs. "It is boring, deeply boring. Most of what I do is read reports and sit in meetings." "Then why do you do it?" It's a fair question. The truth is that he needs something to occupy his mind across the centuries, and building wealth is a game he's good at. But he says, because having resources means I can help people. I can support causes I believe in. I can make sure you and I never have to worry about money. And occasionally, I find a company doing something genuinely interesting, and I get to be part of making it real. Ivy considers this. Then, with the savage honesty of a 9-year-old, "Tyler Jameson's dad is going to talk about being a dentist. That's definitely more boring than you." Career day is held in the school gym, with different parents stationed at tables around the room. Rowan arrives in a suit because he doesn't own anything else, and immediately realizes he's overdressed. Every other parent is in jeans and sweaters, looking comfortable and approachable. He looks like he's about to foreclose on an orphanage, but Ivy beams when she sees him, dragging her friend Maya over. "This is my dad!" Maya is a tiny girl with glasses and a NASA t-shirt. She looks up at Rowan with impressive solemnity. "Ivy says you're rich." "Maya!" Ivy hisses. "She did. She said you have 1,000,000 cars and a house with an elevator." Rowan bites back a smile. "I have 3 cars, and yes, there's an elevator. But mostly I'm just Ivy's dad. Speaking of which, should I explain what I do, or should we talk about something more interesting?" "More interesting," both girls chorus immediately. So Rowan spends career day not talking about venture capital at all, but instead showing Ivy's class pictures of cities around the world on his phone, places he's lived, things he's seen. When one kid asks about his favorite place, he talks about a night market in Thailand where the food smelled like lemongrass and chili, and the lanterns glowed like earthbound stars. Mrs. Chen from his building happens to be volunteering at the event. Her grandson is in Ivy's class, it turns out. She stops by Rowan's table and squeezes his shoulder fondly. "Look at you, being a regular dad." "I'm trying," he says, and means it. The real moment comes at the end, when the teacher asks each parent to share one piece of advice with the kids. The dentist talks about brushing your teeth. The engineer talks about staying curious. The teacher talks about being kind. When it's Rowan's turn, he looks at Ivy, who's sitting cross-legged on the floor with her friends, watching him expectantly. "The most important thing you can do," he says, "is show up. Not just physically, but really be present. When someone needs you, especially someone you love, you stop what you're doing, and you show up. Everything else is negotiable. That's not." Ivy's smile could light up the city. After, as they're leaving, another parent stops them in the hallway. She's a woman in her 50s, professional-looking, with kind eyes. "Mr. Ashford?" "I'm Diana, Maya's mom. I just wanted to say, Ivy talks about you constantly. My dad said this, my dad did that. It's clear how much she adores you. You're doing a good job." Something unfamiliar tightens in Rowan's chest. Pride, maybe, or relief. Or just the simple recognition that he's managing not to screw this up. "Thank you. That means more than you know." Diana glances at Ivy and Maya, who are chattering about weekend plans. Single parenting is hard. If you ever need backup, playdates, emergency pickup, whatever, we're in 6C. Ivy has an open invitation. "I'll remember that," Rowan says, and he will. That night, as he's tucking Ivy in, she says, "Today was good." "Yeah? Yeah. I liked having you there. Some kids don't have dads who come to stuff." Rowan thinks of his own father, centuries dead, who loved him but never quite understood him, who taught him to hunt and to hide, but not to connect, not to build something that mattered beyond survival. "I'll always come to your stuff, little owl," he promises. Always. She falls asleep holding his hand, and Rowan stays until long after her breathing evens out, watching the rise and fall of her chest, memorizing this moment. Outside, the city hums with life. His phone buzzes with messages about business deals and investment opportunities, and 1,000 things that used to matter more than anything. None of it compares to this, his daughter safe and sleeping, in a home where she knows she's wanted. He spent 300 years building an empire. But this, Ivy, loved and protected, and certain that her father will always show up. This is the only legacy that actually matters. The moon rises over Brooklyn, and Rowan Ashford, vampire king of New York, sits in a bedroom that smells like lavender and old books, and thinks that maybe, after all these centuries, he's finally figured out what it means to be human. It means showing up. Every single time. The call comes at 2:47 p.m. on a Thursday, and Rowan knows before he even looks at his phone that something is wrong. He's in the middle of a board meeting, 15 executives in tailored suits arguing about market projections, when his phone vibrates with Ivy's school number. He answers without excusing himself. "What happened?" "Mr. Ashford, this is Principal Matthews. Ivy is fine, but there's been an incident. We need you to come to the school immediately." The drive takes 12 minutes. It should take 25, but Rowan moves through traffic like water, taking risks that would terrify anyone who understood how fast he's actually going. His mind runs through possibilities, each worse than the last. She's hurt. She's sick. Someone touched her. Someone said something. The school secretary is waiting at the entrance and escorts him directly to the principal's office. Inside, Ivy sits in a chair that's too big for her, her knees pulled to her chest, her face blotchy and red. Next to her, Mrs. Patterson, her art teacher, hovers protectively. Across the room, a boy Rowan recognizes from career day sits beside a woman in workout clothes who's typing furiously on her phone. The boy has a tissue pressed to his nose, and there's blood on his shirt. Rowan's entire focus narrows to his daughter. He crosses to her in 2 strides, and kneels. "Are you hurt?" Ivy shakes her head, not meeting his eyes. Principal Matthews clears her throat. She's a short woman with steel gray hair and bifocals, the kind of educator who's seen everything twice. "Mr. Ashford, thank you for coming so quickly. I'm afraid Ivy was involved in a physical altercation with Mason Hartwell during lunch period. Mason has a bloody nose, and several students witnessed Ivy punch him." The woman with the phone looks up. "Witnessed?" "She attacked him! My son needs medical attention, possibly a lawyer. Mrs. Hartwell," the principal says firmly, "let's keep this productive." Rowan hasn't moved from his position in front of Ivy. Very quietly, he asks her, "Did you punch Mason?" A tiny nod. "Why?" Ivy's hands are shaking. When she finally speaks, her voice is barely audible. "He said Mom didn't want me, that she gave me away because I'm not worth keeping." The temperature in the room seems to drop 10 degrees. Rowan goes absolutely still in the way that predators do before they strike. Every muscle coiled, every sense heightened. When he stands and turns to face Mason, the boy actually shrinks back in his chair. "Is that what you said to my daughter?" I was just joking around," Mason stammers. "Everyone knows her mom doesn't have custody anymore. You didn't think your words would hurt?" Rowan's voice is soft, precise, deadly. "You didn't think that telling a 9-year-old girl she's unwanted would be cruel?" Mrs. Hartwell stands abruptly. "How dare you intimidate my son? He's the victim here. Your daughter broke his nose." "His nose isn't broken," Mrs. Patterson interjects quietly. "I was a nurse before I became a teacher. It's barely bleeding. But Mason's been bullying Ivy for weeks, making comments about her family situation, her mother, spreading rumors. Today he told half the cafeteria that Ivy's mom abandoned her because she was too broken to deal with. I heard him myself." "That's a lie," Mrs. Hartwell snaps. "Mason would never—" "Mrs. Hartwell," Principal Matthews interrupts. "I've spoken with 3 teachers and 7 students. The accounts are consistent. Mason has been targeting Ivy with increasingly cruel comments about her family. Today's remark appears to have been the final straw. Mrs. Hartwell's face flushes red. So what? Kids tease each other. That's normal. It doesn't give anyone the right to resort to violence. Rowan looks at her for a long moment. She's wearing expensive athleisure wear, carries a designer purse, has the kind of highlights that cost $400. She's also never had to fight for anything. Never had to protect herself with her fists because words and authority failed. You're absolutely right, he says, and his agreement seems to catch her off guard. Violence isn't the answer. Ivy shouldn't have hit your son. He turns back to his daughter. Ivy, look at me. She does, tears streaming down her face. Hitting someone is not how we handle things, even when they hurt us. Even when we're angry and scared. Do you understand? Yes, she whispers. Good. He wipes a tear from her cheek with his thumb. I'm not angry with you. I'm sad that you felt you had no other choice. But next time, and there will be a next time because people will always say cruel things, you walk away. You find an adult. You tell me. You don't let someone else's ugliness make you into something you're not. Ivy nods and more tears fall. I'm sorry. I just couldn't. He kept saying it over and over, and everyone was laughing, and I wanted him to stop. I know, little owl. I know. Principal Matthews adjusts her glasses. Mr. Ashford, I appreciate your response. However, school policy on physical violence is clear. Ivy will be suspended for 3 days. This will go on her permanent record. Absolutely not. Everyone turns to stare at him. Rowan straightens to his full height. When he speaks, it's with the authority of someone who's negotiated with kings and queens, who's built empires and destroyed enemies, who's survived 3 centuries by knowing exactly when to be soft and when to be steel. My daughter has been systematically bullied by this boy for weeks. She reported it to her teacher twice. I have the emails she sent me about it. Nothing was done. Today, she defended herself against targeted harassment about one of the most traumatic experiences of her young life. And your response is to punish her equally with her tormentor. School policy doesn't allow for, then your policy is broken. Rowan's voice doesn't rise, but it fills the room anyway. What message does it send to Ivy, and every other student watching, that victims who defend themselves receive the same consequences as their bullies? That speaking up doesn't work, but fighting back gets you suspended? Mr. Ashford, I understand your frustration, but do you? He leans forward slightly, and Principal Matthews actually takes a step back. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like this school failed my daughter. You created an environment where she was harassed daily, where her trauma was used as entertainment, where she had nowhere to turn. And now you want to punish her for breaking under that pressure? Mrs. Hartwell makes an indignant noise. This is outrageous. Mason is the one who needs sympathy here. He's injured. Rowan turns to her. Your son is fine. His pride is wounded, which is good. Maybe he'll think twice before weaponizing someone else's pain. But let me be very clear, Mrs. Hartwell. If he speaks to or about my daughter again, if he spreads one more rumor or makes one more cruel comment, I will ensure that every parent in this school knows exactly what kind of child you're raising. I'll hire a lawyer. I'll call the school board. I'll make this my full-time job. Do you understand me? Mrs. Hartwell's mouth opens and closes soundlessly. Mason has gone very pale. Principal Matthews holds up both hands. Everyone needs to calm down. Mr. Ashford, threatening other families is not... It's not a threat. It's a boundary. He looks at her directly. My daughter has been through enough. She lost the security of her mother's home. She's in therapy processing abandonment and neglect. She's adjusting to a new school, a new life, new everything. And this building was supposed to be safe for her. You failed at that, so here's what's going to happen. He pauses, and the silence is absolute. Ivy will not be suspended. She will receive counseling support to help her develop better coping strategies, support that should have been offered when the bullying started. Mason will be suspended for 1 week for targeted harassment, and when he returns, he'll be in a different lunch period than Ivy. You'll implement an anti-bullying assembly for all students, and you'll train your staff to recognize and intervene in these situations before they escalate. Principal Matthews stares at him. Mr. Ashford, you can't just dictate. I can, and I am. I've already texted my attorney. He's drafting a formal complaint about the school's failure to protect my daughter from a hostile environment. We can resolve this now, reasonably, or we can involve the superintendent and the media. Your choice. It's a bluff, mostly. Maxwell hasn't actually drafted anything yet, though he will if Rowan asks. But Rowan has learned that people with power rarely expect to be challenged, and when they are, they often fold faster than they'd like to admit. Principal Matthews looks at Mrs. Hartwell, then at Mrs. Patterson, then back at Rowan. Something in her face shifts, a recognition, perhaps, that she's outmatched. Or maybe just a tired educator's acknowledgement that he's right, and she knows it. Fine, she says quietly. We'll handle it your way. But Mr. Ashford, Ivy still needs to apologize to Mason. No, the word is flat, final. Excuse me? She defended herself. She doesn't apologize for that. Mason can apologize to her for weeks of cruelty. Then we'll discuss whether she's willing to accept it. Mrs. Hartwell grabs her son's arm and stands. We're leaving! This is insane! You're insane! Come on, Mason! They storm out, and the door slams behind them hard enough to rattle the frame. In the ringing silence that follows, Principal Matthews removes her glasses and rubs the bridge of her nose. You know she's going to complain to the board. Let her. Rowan puts a hand on Ivy's shoulder. Are we done here? For now, but Mr. Ashford... The principal hesitates, then continues more softly. You're right. We should have done more. I'm sorry Ivy felt unsafe here. It's not enough, but it's something. Rowan nods once and guides Ivy toward the door. Mrs. Patterson follows them into the hallway. Mr. Ashford, wait! When he turns, she's smiling slightly. That was the most terrifying thing I've ever seen, and I once worked in ER in Detroit. Thank you for advocating for her. Someone has to, Rowan says simply. In the car, Ivy is silent for a long time. Rowan doesn't push. He just drives, taking the long way home, letting the motion and the quiet settle between them. Finally, she says, Did you mean it? That you're not mad? I meant it. But you said hitting was wrong. It is wrong. It's also understandable. Both things can be true, Ivy. You're not a bad person for defending yourself. You just need to learn other ways to protect yourself, ways that won't get you in trouble or hurt you in the long run. Like what? Like using your words to cut deeper than any punch could. Like walking away and letting their ugliness eat at them instead of at you. Like building yourself so strong on the inside that their opinions can't touch you. He glances at her. Those things are harder than hitting someone, but they last longer, and they don't give anyone power over you. Ivy wipes her nose on her sleeve. Mason was right, though. Mom did give me away. Your mother made choices about what she could handle. That's not the same as not wanting you. And Ivy. He pulls the car over, puts it in park, turns to face her fully. Even if she had given you away, even if she'd walked away completely, that would be about her limitations, not your worth. You are valuable. You are wanted. You are loved beyond measure. Nothing anyone says can change that truth. You have to say that. You're my dad. I do have to say it. And it's still true. He reaches over and taps her chest, right over her heart. You carry that truth in here. Let it be louder than any cruelty someone throws at you. She's crying again, but differently now, the kind of tears that wash things clean instead of drowning them. Can we go home? We can go home. That evening, after Ivy is asleep with her owl clutched tight and her nightlight casting shadows that look like forest creatures on the walls, Rowan stands at his window overlooking the city. His phone rings, and Brooke's name appears on the screen. He considers not answering. Then he remembers Ivy's face in the principal's office, the way she'd tried to defend Brooke even while repeating the cruelty Mason had weaponized. Hello. Rowan. Brooke's voice is thick, like she's been crying. Ivy called me after dinner. She told me what happened at school today, what that boy said. She shouldn't have had to hear any of it. I know. There's a long pause. I'm coming to the city tomorrow. I want to see her. Just for coffee or something. Nothing that violates the custody agreement. I need her to know that it's not true. That I didn't give her away because she's broken or unwanted or any of those horrible things. Rowan closes his eyes. Brooke, she knows you love her, but knowing and feeling are different things. You can tell her 1,000 times that you want her, but until your actions match your words, until you show up consistently and put her first, she's going to doubt it. That's the price of what happened. I'm trying, Brooke whispers. I'm really trying. I finished the parenting class. I haven't touched alcohol in 2 months. I broke up with Garrett. I got a therapist. I'm doing everything the judge said and more. Good. Keep doing it. Not for me, not for the court. For her. Can I see her tomorrow? Please? Rowan thinks of Ivy's face when she talks about her mother. The complicated mix of love and hurt and hope. I'll ask her. If she says yes, we'll make it work. But if she says no, you accept that. Understood? Understood. Thank you, Rowan, for taking care of her, for fighting for her today, for being what I couldn't be. The line goes dead before he can respond. The next morning, Rowan makes pancakes shaped like owls, imperfect but earnest, and tells Ivy about her mother's request. Ivy chews thoughtfully, syrup on her chin, considering. Okay, she finally says, but can you come too? Not sitting with us, but like, nearby? I can do that. They meet at a cafe 2 blocks from Rowan's apartment, one with mismatched furniture and local art on the walls. Rowan takes a table in the corner with a newspaper he doesn't read, while Ivy and Brooke sit by the window. He watches them through his peripheral vision, Brooke reaching across the table to touch Ivy's hand, Ivy pulling back slightly, then allowing it. The conversation is halting at first, then smoother. At one point, Brooke says something that makes Ivy laugh, and the sound is so normal, so achingly ordinary, that something in Rowan's chest unclenches. Maybe they'll be okay. Maybe broken things can heal if you give them enough time and care. When the hour is up, Brooke hugs Ivy goodbye and walks past Rowan's table on her way out. She doesn't stop, but she mouths, "Thank you," as she passes. Ivy slides into the chair across from him, stealing a sip of his coffee and making a face at the bitterness. That was good, she announces. Mom cried a little bit, but the good kind of crying. She said she's sorry for making me feel unwanted. She said she's working on being better. How did that feel? Weird, but also kind of okay. Ivy swirls the coffee cup, watching the liquid move. Dad, can I ask you something? Always. Do you think people can really change? Like, actually become different than they were? Rowan thinks of himself at 20, at 50, at 100. Each version so different from the last, shaped by loss and time and choice. He thinks of how he's changed just in the last 6 months, how becoming Ivy's primary parent has sanded down edges he didn't know he had. Yes, he says, I think people can change. But only if they want to, and only if they do the work. Change doesn't just happen. You have to choose it, every day, over and over. Are you changing? The question catches him off guard. What do you mean? You smile more now. And you do voices when you read to me, which you didn't used to do. And you learned how to make pancakes even though you're really bad at it. She grins. You're changing into more of a regular dad. Rowan feels something warm expand in his chest. Pride, yes, but also a kind of joy he didn't know he was capable of. I guess I am. Is that okay? It's perfect, Ivy says simply. They walk home through streets dappled with autumn sunlight, Ivy chattering about a book she wants from the library, and whether they can get Chinese food for dinner. Rowan listens, responds, exists fully in this moment with his daughter who chose to come to him that midnight weeks ago, who trusted him to keep her safe. He thinks about the vampire king he was a year ago, powerful, wealthy, untouchable, alone in all the ways that matter. He thinks about the father he's becoming, still powerful, still wealthy, but no longer untouchable, no longer alone. Ivy slips her hand into his as they wait at a crosswalk, and Rowan holds on like she's the only thing keeping him tethered to the world. Maybe she is. The light changes. They cross together. Above them, the sky is impossibly blue, and the city moves around them like a river that knows where it's going, even when the people in it don't. Everything is exactly as it should be.